10 things that prevented Revenge of the Sith from being the best Star Wars movie ever. Before we wrap it up tonight, I want to get pick your dick on something.
Oh, prickle away.
Empire Strikes Back is one of the best films of all time ever. It's a landmark film.
It's so good the more you watch it.
But I think it is, yeah. Jen and I watched it New Year's Eve. After the ball dropped, we watched Empire Strikes Back. She hadn't seen it in like 20 years. It's great. Yeah, I actually quoted you too. I said, John says we're married now. This is a tradition. We're doing this. So we always have sex after we go to your parents' house in the car. I read this article the other day, how Revenge of the Sith, 10 things that prevented it from being the best.
That movie has some of the best moments of all of Star Wars, in my opinion. The action and the conversations between the Emperor and Anakin, and even Samuel L. Jackson's performance. It's like he came to fucking play in that one. Before you could tell he was like, I can't believe I'm in a Star Wars movie. I know I'm Sam Jackson, but this is bigger than me.
Right. You ever see interviews with Ewan McGregor? He's like, I can do the sound effects with my mouth. They were so excited just to be in a Star Wars movie. So Empire Strikes Back, I think most people agree, was the best Star Wars film. It's arguably one of the best films of all time. So I don't know what happened in Revenge of the Sith, if they took it out, would make this better than Empire Strikes Back. But it was actually a good argument. Again, I've only seen the prequels once. I've seen Phantom Menace maybe twice. The scene where Vader becomes Vader is amazing, where the mask comes on. But then he gets up and he does that, no, which really hurt the scene. No. And
it's like...
It's painful to watch him say that. But they said in the article, if they didn't do that, that would add to it being one of the greatest films, because George Lucas was so adamant about him saying no like that.
I know Lucas is thinking inside his head, inside that helmet, it's Anakin, and he's going, no, but it's James Earl Jones going, no. So it's going to sound silly. They should have just had him fucking light up a lightsaber and kill the two, guards that were there. And, the Emperor would be like, in there he's, just a fucking killing machine now.
You see Darth Vader, that voice is infinite.
You don't see that voice yelling and going, no. You hear that voice saying, you're part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away. That's the most he yells.
Do you think Revenge of the Sith is the best of the prequels, in your opinion?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the expert.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't have the pod race. That's pretty cool, right?
Pod race is unbelievable. But yeah, Revenge of the Sith has some of the best scenes ever. I mean, we have Yoda versus the Emperor. We have Obi-Wan versus Grievous. We have Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Dooku, and Anakin chops his head off. Mace Windu versus the Emperor. We have Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the most legendary fight in the history that explains why Anakin is in the Darth Vader suit in the first place. Because I have the high ground.
And that scene too, where the transformation begins. Brings the medical, capsule or portal or whatever to get him, and you're like, oh no, this is how they're building him. In the top 5 is that the scene in Rogue One where Vader, of course, takes out all the guys, beginning of A New Hope, and where he fights Skywalker. Those 3 give you goosebumps. And I'm not even a big Star Wars guy. I'm just a movie guy. I love the Star Wars movies. They're great films, but I'm not a huge fan where I watch them all the time. But those scenes for me give me goosebumps. They're I watched it 3 times at work this week, in earshot of superiors. Those Vader clips, because you just want to watch them.
The scene with Vader in Rogue One, I can't imagine what the writer's room, whoever came up with that idea, they were probably flipping out and also terrified that the fans were going to be what the fuck, this is stupid, because they tease, they tease you with him in the middle of the movie, and he makes a joke, and you're like, what are you fucking doing? He's like, director, try not to choke on your aspirations. Vader's making quips what the fuck, and then they gave us that scene and they knocked it out of the park, and it was a wet dream of Star Wars, pure fan service. And I remember in the theater thinking, when it was happening, I'm like, is this actually happening? Is this actually real? Am I like in a dream? Do I need to wake up?
You would have done that differently though, as like
What?
a true fan. The way
No.
that all played out.
No, I would have made it last longer. That's the only way I would have made it. Like I would have had him like having 4 guys up against the wall, and then like throwing more guns back and like force the door open. Like he can't just like get the door open, you know. And then at the end, when the music sounded like it was gonna do dun 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 dun, dun it like changed. I was like, no.
I think they hit it at it, and it
The
worked.
whole thing, Giacchino.
One of the other things
Jeez.
was Count Dooku. His death was too easy. Do you think if his death was more prolonged, it would have been a better film, John, given the history and his underperformance in Attack of the Clones?
I would have preferred more Dooku and less Grievous. Even though Grievous was really cool, you got a lot of him. You could have taken some time away and kept Dooku around longer because I love that actor from Gremlins 2.
Yeah, that's also on this list of things. There was too much screen time of Grievous.
Yeah, he was on there a lot, and he didn't need to be, even though he was really cool. Dooku was great, but that just showed
Said that.
It just showed that Anakin was like just a fucking badass. Like he had surpassed Obi-Wan, who's like his trainer, like already. So, and Dooku felt it. He's like, "Whoa, you are like nuts." And with Obi-Wan's kind of help, Dooku's no match for them.
That's what these experts.
Yeah, these
experts.
experts.
You're more of an expert than any of these guys, but that's true though. What you just said. Also, the experts. It's some guy in his basement lives with his mom. But
it's like you just have it imprinted on your memory 2,000 times, and I have it imprinted like 200 times.
Right, because you watched the other one.
Because because
you watched everything, which is great. But it's true though. The Dooku
and I've had sex.
You've had sex a lot. You have a kid. I mean, there's proof that you actually have had sex.
That
but the Count Dooku though, being too short and the Grievous too long. It's funny you said that because I watched it. I actually watched that for the first time back in December. I went through a weekend of watching all the films again or for the first time. Mm-hmm. The only thing I ever saw was Phantom Menace prior, and I thought the same thing. Like they're kind of focusing on this guy a lot.
Yeah, it's like he is cool, but he's like a robot. He's like a human, or he's like a living thing, and he's like so much robotic. It's hard to connect to him. I like his cape and his cough, and I like how he talks. Kenobi. Him and Obi-Wan's fight was crazy. When his arms come up and they separate, and he's got 4
it's crazy
lightsabers spinning. Like that's nuts. But yeah, it was a bit much. I like Dooku. I like that actor. And I like his
he's a great actor.
His lightsaber fighting style, like when him and Yoda go at it in the second one in Attack of the Clones. Yeah. He's really cool. He's got a cool style. His history's interesting. He just drifts away from the Jedi because he was originally a Jedi, trained by Yoda.
Like the number one is Darth Vader's no.
Okay, yeah, his no is so stupid, and I wanted to go back to that because
I think that was terrible. I don't think it was good.
They added a no after this to kind of balance it, and they were like, well, no, he said no before. And they added in a no from the greatest scene ever when Vader's looking at Luke and looking at the Emperor. Looking at the Emperor. Before it was just silence and he was just thinking, and you got that. You understood by his head moving back and forth. You didn't need, and they added in no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, that was like an afterthought.
No. Like a baby.
And the stormtroopers, people are looking around, and you're like, "Yep, it's him saying it. He's right in front of you." And they're like, "Look."
So the no,
up. The short time of Dooku.
Right? Dooku's short time.
Third one is Padme Amidala's death. If she did not die, or they went and prolonged it, would have made it a better film, worthy of the best Star Wars film ever.
Right, she should have been alive while Anakin was Darth Vader. She should have survived childbirth, lived for a year or two, and then they ship those two off because, in the movie they talk about I have a vague memory of my mom, but I don't really remember. Luke remembers nothing. Leia's I don't really remember much. and she'd be living with Darth Vader, that like monster, like trying to survive like as a family. And he's like, no, I have to destroy the galaxy. Fuck off.
Good point. They should have did something where it was prolonged and she could like witness that, and there would be some kind of, disapproval or struggle there.
And then she like abandons him when he like goes nuts, and he like catches her and she dies.
And that would have added to the fuel. Good point.
And Obi-Wan ships her off, and then he disappears.
Here's another one. This is kind of vague, but they cut cool things out of the films. Revenge of the Sith is such a strong movie, and in the eyes of many Star Wars fans, it comes close to perfection. I don't know how true that is, but George Lucas, this is kind of a behind the scenes one, but George Lucas apparently cut a lot of cool scenes out of the film and left a lot of shitty ones in. I guess I wouldn't really know, and you wouldn't know unless you've seen these cut scenes, but according to original screenplay drafts, they cut a lot of stuff out.
Well,
I don't know what that means.
And
I know what that means.
They
I don't know
like describe what happens. Like
no, it's a wasted.
No.
All right, we'll skip that one. We'll do 9 things. Next one is the big bad unanswered question. Revenge of the Sith did, however, fail to answer one big question. Given how big Anakin is, there was no father.
Right.
Is that something that hurts the film? To me, as a Star Wars fan, I love the films. I'm not an expert in the universe. I think it's better he doesn't have a father because it shows him godlike, as infinite, as no one created him. He's universal. Even though he was a child, a sweet little boy, it doesn't show his origins. It leaves it open to like it shows him as infinite. Is my opinion.
Well, I thought it was that, because they made the decision of introducing the midichlorians into the Star Wars universe, that is basically in your DNA that you're born with, that shows your ability to become a Jedi and to manipulate the Force. Like there's different levels. People are born with different levels of midichlorians in their body, in their blood. Darth Vader, Anakin is the most. Yoda and Yoda's species are known as having the absolute most. So Anakin having higher than Yoda was like, what? And yes, there's no father, because I think the Force just created him inside her.
Wow, good call.
The
midichlorians kind of infiltrated her loinage.
Her bosom.
And that's how he was incepted.
And they kind of...
Good call. Maybe that's probably what it is.
There's all these hints out there, though, that the Emperor manipulated midichlorians within a woman's womb and created Anakin Skywalker. But I don't know why he wouldn't impregnate her himself, because... according to The Rise of Skywalker, he's had a daughter. He had a daughter.
I wonder if
that was sex.
I'm sorry. I wonder if that was a conscious decision or like a writer's thing that they just did, because that's a really interesting point.
Well, it's the idioticness of having two different writers write this sequel trilogy that they just did, JJ and Rian Johnson. Like it just shows. Yeah. You can't do it, no matter how good they both are and how similar they both can be. Storytelling has to be very, very like one or two guys, three guys most, together in a room forever.
Right, which is why it works when they do that. It's collaborative or solo, where it's the same.
Vision.
It's the same curated, library of ideas. Right. That it works, and if there's ever an issue like we're talking about right now, it would be a checks and balances. Like, we established here this is it. Where if you just throw the torch to the next person, it's like, well, we're just gonna make fireflies here. It's like, but that doesn't exist. It's like, well, it does in my world, and then you have shit that comes out. I'm using vague examples, but yeah.
No,
that's a good point. I'm gonna have to isolate this whole segment for another show, I think.
No, I was just
its own show. This is worthy of its own respect.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I'm like, I think I have like 3 different videos I can post.
Yeah, I think this one is its own beast.
It's a spectacular beast.
The next one, Jonathan, it's a beast of burden. Love has blinded you, John. So in Revenge of the Sith, this comes fairly early on. Anakin has just successfully crash-landed Dooku's cruiser and rescued Chancellor Palpatine. Chancellor Palpatine is Darth Sidious.
Right.
I'm not. That's not in the article. I'm just reminding myself.
Right. You're right.
He's from the clutches of the Separatists.
Oh, the Sidious.
Now, the first night back out of fighting in the Clone Wars for months, he comes back. He crashes at his baby mama's apartment for a romantic, relaxing evening. The moment in question during this isolated incident, Revenge of the Sith, that if it were omitted would make it a better film, is Anakin is creepily watching Padme's brush her hair out in the balcony. Are you with me so far? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
She explains she wants to have the baby and all this stuff.
In Naboo.
Anakin explains how beautiful she is. Padme retorts, it's because she's in love. There's a very awkward contest of who loves who more here. It seems very juvenile. Like the writers were just throwing this out, like, let's make a love scene. But for whatever reason, in this list of expert panelists, this love, I remember the scene. It was pretty cheesy. Hurts the film.
Yeah. Their chemistry was kind of clunky. It was only good when they were like fighting together.
And forced.
Yeah, like even in Attack of the Clones, is that what it's called? Attack of the Clones?
Yeah.
He's talking about sand and how it's coarse and gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, shut your mouth. She doesn't like you. This is a movie. I'm out of it. Like their chemistry was crappy. I think that's why Hayden Christensen gets so much shit. So I think they really wanted it to matter, and him becoming Darth Vader keyed so much on her death, like turning him to the dark side, like that final, like, fuck you assholes.
Yeah, the final blow.
My wife is dead. Oh my God, I don't care. The Jedi betrayed me and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So that was their weak attempt. I feel like they could have just plugged Natalie Portman in, even though she was pregnant, into a little more action and build that relationship through the fighting.
Yeah, because opposites attract. And when there's like friction, you're more drawn to each other in a sense where there's like a stronger need for resolve. Watching it for the first time, I did feel like it was a little forced.
Yeah.
It was a little cheesy. Like,
so bad.
Okay, I get it. I get it. Titanic just came out a few years ago. Let's do this.
But I did love how Palpatine was a prisoner of the Separatists who were being manipulated by the Emperor. He was like, he used himself, like he played two different characters and manipulated two different groups.
Yeah, it's good writing.
To hoist him to the top and create the first galactic empire.
It worked. Two more on this list, Jonathan.
He's the biggest villain.
Speaking of Padme, which sounds like a great Thai dish you would order at Jasmine Thai Cuisine. Like, I'll take the chicken Padme. No Padme. No spring
Queen
roll,
Amidala. Like, come on, George. Jeez.
He was really digging deep. In the film, Jonathan, she lost her will to live.
Right.
If she went a different way, maybe as foreshadows as Thee has predicted or suggested, would that have helped the film if she did not give up in the sense of her will to live?
Yeah. I swear, I think they should have had her with him for like a year or two of raising Luke and Leia as Darth Vader, trying to be this galactic, Sith Lord, Sith Lord, and a father of two, married. It would have just been horrible. You do it for the latter half of the movie, and it ends with her being killed and the twins being separated and shot across the galaxy to Alderaan and Tatooine.
Which works as a perfect climax anyway, and an end cap to it.
Right.
Like that's great in its own, if you went that route.
And we watch Rogue One, then we watch A New Hope, and it's all gravy.
It's all gravy. It's all Thanksgiving Day gravy with with beer and fights and tears. I mean, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes. John, the high
Political
ground.
and religious arguments.
Political religious arguments, yeah. Trump's doing great. Fuck you, Dad. Why can't we just get our Black Friday coupons ready?
Solar power.
Solar power. It costs jobs. The high ground, Jonathan. I think we both agree, most people agree, that the climactic fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin was pretty good choreography-wise. Pretty good. Would it have made it better, though, if they weren't surrounded by fields of lava and they would have been somewhere on an elevated platform? This one's a little bit of a bigger stretch, but according to this article of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, things that would have made it the best movie ever, do you think, John, if the final battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan were fought similar to Empire Strikes Back, somewhere on higher ground, it would have helped the film?
No, I disagree with this one wholeheartedly, because guess what? Everyone would just talk. It wasn't written anywhere. It wasn't explained in any of the movies. You just knew that there was a man under that black suit who had seen and fought and been in some shit, and that most of his main injuries came from this crazy fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was almost like the fans created that, but then forced it to be part of like the story that was told on like the back of toys, where like characters that were in the background got a name,
shit. Yeah.
And so you were like, oh man, I wonder what that must have been fucking awesome. Obi-Wan must have been crazy back in the day. And what do? They put this fucking fight inside a volcano, and they fight to the fucking death almost. And Anakin tries to pull this jump over top of him, and he leaves himself wide open up in the air, and Obi-Wan slices him and chops off his one arm and both of his legs.
Hey, fucked him up.
And then he falls down the hill into lava, and the lava like touches him and then catches him on fire, and his whole back legs, up his ass, up his back, up his neck, on top of his head, all on fire. Screaming, I hate you.
Oh, it's brutal. The eyes.
You were the chosen one.
Oh, it's brutal.
You were supposed to put an end to the Sith, not join them.
That's how I felt with all the
like a brother, Anakin.
It's brutal too with the eyes. Like,
they start turning orange.
Yeah. So you disagree with this one?
I just love the YouTube channel, how it should have ended. Their version of Revenge of the Sith. And Anakin's, it's that scene where Obi-Wan's like, don't try it. I've got the higher ground. Anakin goes, in this video, he goes, oh yeah? Well, I've got the lava ground. Lava ground. Lava ground. He starts throwing lava, like, with the Force at Obi-Wan. He's like, oh.
Lava ground. Like LARPing.
I have the lava ground. Lava ground.
Yeah, fire. Right. Magic. Yeah, right. That's true, though. That's so true.
Magic wand. Magic wand. Magic book. Magic book and wand.
Fire. Inhale. That's a good point, though. So you disagree with that one. That makes sense, though, what you just said. It drives it home.
What other, like, epic, dangerous, crazy, like, I feel like that's what I wanted. I wanted them surrounded by death, fighting to the death, and it ends in this crazy, like, misguidance, like a young, like his youth did him wrong, and he didn't understand that, like, by jumping that way, no matter what, Obi-Wan had the advantage because he was leaving himself wide open if he wanted to get close.
I agree with you 100%. I never even thought about this, but the fact that they chose a lava ground, first of all, it is original. It would have been cheap effects if they just did it, like, with a space background or something, or on top of a, whatever.
Like, what been more crazy?
And then, but it's also very dramatic. And the other thing is, too, is it would have been too much like Empire Strikes Back if they did it with the same kind of backdrop. It feels like it would have been forced, like, well, let's just make it like Empire Strikes Back.
And they not overemphasize, but they do a good job of, like, foreshadowing just how fucking advanced Anakin is. So when Obi-Wan's like, holy fuck, like, he's better than me, it's not like a teacher and an apprentice. It's like Anakin already was better than him. So you were like, oh my God, like, even though I know how this turns out, because I've seen the other movies, it's still gripping.
it's gripping, and also it works. The special effects would not have been there in 1980, 1978 to do that kind of scene. So
Right.
it was there, and it was appropriate. The final one on this list is Anakin. Uh, Anakin kills the younglings. Uh, Easily the most disturbing moment of any Star Wars films, some might say. The younglings are terrified. They're hiding behind Yoda's chair. Anakin kills him. Was this hurtful to the film?
Now, look, to me, this is something that people bring up when they say Darth Vader is not redeemed at the end because he murdered children. And it's like, okay, but like he was being manipulated by the most evil being in the galaxy, so let's cut him a break. I feel like, okay, I've never even thought about it. I was just like, yeah, he was fucking nuts. He was Darth Vader. Like, he doesn't care. Little kids, see you later. Get out of here. I don't want future Jedi. I'm taking them out early. I'm going to kill you eventually, so I might as well just kill you now. But I don't feel like it was necessary to, because it wasn't like equal. It was like he killed them early in his turn to the dark side. It's like, whoa, that's like all it took to get you there. Even though I know he had been kind of building there since he took out all the sand people when he found his mom in Attack of the Clones.
Right.
You know, it's like, I killed them, even the women and children. But to kill all those young Jedi, and it just felt like a bit of a reach in like his progression as a bad guy. It's like, whoa, he's there already? Yikes.
Too soon.
That was a little early.
It was a little early.
But again, I'm indifferent. Right. I don't care.
But that probably wouldn't have, if they omitted that part, it wouldn't have made it a superior film.
It was completely and utterly unnecessary. Like, I get it. He's Darth Vader now. You don't need to like punt in this last second.
Right.
And he kills a bunch of kids. It's like, whoa. Now he's like Hitler level.
Yeah, it's like a guy that has more money than you, and he shows up in a Lamborghini. It's like, hey, I'm doing well. You're like, I get it. Things are well.
You don't say, or I mean, you don't have to say.
That was the explanation from the maestro himself, John Hassinger, Comic John.
Lava ground.
Force. If that wasn't a force, that was a cappuccino machine. If Revenge of the Sith changed some things, if it would have been the best film of all time and the Star Wars franchise, and the answer is no, according to this article. Dispute.
The greatest franchise of all time?
Greatest film in the franchise. If they omitted these scenes, would it make it the best one? And the answer is no. Empire Strikes Back is still the best, right?
In my opinion, Return of the Jedi is my favorite. I don't know, the best is subjective, but obviously everyone has their favorites. I just love all. Return of the Jedi to me felt like 3 different movies. Empire Strikes Back has that feeling too, because they start in the snow, they end in like the clouds. But I just love Jabba the Hutt. I love the Ewoks.
Same here.
I love Yoda's last words to Luke. Like, it's just such words to live by.
It's great. It's aged, I think, the best. Everybody was the most comfortable. The chemistry was the best. You start off with Jabba the Hutt, the gangster. You end up on Endor in the forest fights, and the whole thing it's amazing.
It's the version of Luke akin to Shawn Michaels at the Royal Rumble right after the Rockers broke up, and he had his own, and he was like the badass. Like, remember Luke in Return of the Jedi is like legit green lightsaber, black suit with the black cloak, and he's just like choking people with his hand, just like his dad. Beautiful.
Yeah, and it introduces the new lightsaber. He built the new lightsaber, which is great.
My favorite lightsaber color.
By the way, if you have the Force Unleashed on Xbox, the video game, there's a code you can use if you're still stuck in 2012 video games like I am, where you can change the lightsaber, and there's like different characteristics to each, which I didn't realize.
Oh yeah. They all like it
They
doesn't
do
matter
different.
what in the lore, in the world, in the space universe, the cinematic world, the pretend world. You put a kyber crystal in there. It doesn't matter what color it is. The lightsaber will light up to reflect you, and that's why Sam Jackson's is the only one that's purple because Mace Windu is the only one who can harness the light and dark side.
Oh,
Until
pretty
Rey.
damn good. Yeah, the crystals. They talk about that.
Until Rey, of course.
Can I ask you a final question of the eve?
Tick me.
The answer is out there. I know. I'm just not smart enough to find it. Why is there no gravity in space in the Star Wars universe? Is that just because that's the universe and it doesn't the laws of physics to our world does not apply to Star Wars, or do they ever never explain that?
What do you mean?
So
why is there gravity?
So yeah, there's like gravity in the sense where there shouldn't be, if it were like our world, where like the ship could have like a dock open and stormtroopers could like hang out there, but they wouldn't be like flying and sucked out. Is that just because the law's the same By the way, they shouldn't. It works. They should not have that in the universe. I'm just curious, as a dickhead, like why that.
Yeah, that's
just doesn't apply.
Right. Yeah, like
you can put your head out the window and you
remember
would be fine.
it's a long time ago.
Oh, I know it's a galaxy.
In a galaxy far, far away. So like maybe there's oxygen in their in their universe.
I'm not saying there should be or they don't have this. I'm just curious. Was that ever explained? Like why or
no? And normally, if they're in space, they have masks on or helmets on, but yeah, not all the TIE fighter pilots have anything on their mouth. So I don't know.
I think
it's a
I think it just doesn't apply.
No, I think they just threw that out. They were like,
and they should. It wouldn't work if
they can breathe.
They can breathe. They shouldn't.
Don't worry, you'll be fine. Take this plane into outer space. You'll be fine.
By the way, I think it's very cool in the last few years how they still use the same technology, like TIE fighters and stuff. And they didn't do what like most franchises do. We're like, we'll just give it something new. Like they did a little bit with lightsabers because you have to like evolve.
Oh yeah.
But they still keep it the same. They keep it true to the original storylines, which is so amazing. Because if you look at films made in like 1980, even Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then versus like 2016, you're like, that doesn't look realistic. Star Wars always looked realistic in the sense that they keep everything, linear, where it works. They don't do anything ridiculous.
Verisimilitude.
Yeah, it works. That's all I'll say. Oh my gosh. I think those lightsaber swords too cost like $400.
Oh my gosh, dude. I think they're like
$250.
I think it's like $200 to make one, and then if you want to, no, yeah, I think it's just $200.
Expensive. You don't mess around. There it is. We get a shot of this before we sign off. This is a good one.
This is the, as close as they can make it, replica to Luke's.
That's the real deal.
Return of the Jedi. This I bought for $115. Impressive. Here, grab that screenshot, Clark. Gold, Jerry.
That'll be our show tonight from the gentleman in charge.
Tick me.
Of discussing Star Wars and the expert on everything comics, Mr. John Hassinger, to the man in charge of discussing everything with his neighbor, Bill Comic, who's indicted for wire fraud. I'm Matthew Clark. Thanks for listening to this episode of Nerd 35 and the Comic John. Good night, everybody.
I love you.
Godspeed.
Bye.